Okay, if you're married and it's been a long time since you've had sex, or you struggle to regularly find time for sex, or you're not satisfied with the current state of your sexual relationship, then I have a solution for you today. Schedule it. Now, I know you may be thinking to yourself, that sounds terrible. Sex is supposed to be organic and unplanned and spontaneous and romantic and whatever other myth you bought into. But today I want to talk to you about why I think scheduled sex may be one of the most important things you can do, and how I think it might revolutionize your relationship. That's what we're going to talk about today on Relationshots. Welcome to Relationshots. My name is Eric Woot, and if this is your first time hanging out with us, welcome to the place to get practical relationship advice that actually works in your relationship. If you've not already done so, go ahead and click the subscribe button and the bell notification so you don't miss upcoming videos. If you want a free guide to intimacy, click the link in the description area below. You'll also find other resources, classes, courses that can help you in your relationship below, so check those out. All right, today we're going to talk about this concept of sex. It is not uncommon for couples to struggle with their sexual relationship. Either they're not satisfied with the frequency or the style, or they just can't seem to get on the same page. It's not abnormal for me to sit down with a couple in counseling and when that topic comes up and I ask when the last time they had sex, for one of them to be like, I think probably last week, and the other one to be like, no, it was exactly 18 days ago. It's been 3 weeks, or whatever they might say, because sometimes we just aren't aware. And sometimes it's been so long that we don't really even know how to get it started again, right? If you haven't had sex in quite a while, it can be awkward to think about, I don't even know how to initiate sex again in a relationship. And if that's the case for you, then I'm going to tell you today, you need to schedule it. To which you're going to say, that doesn't sound like a great idea. It's supposed to be unplanned. It's supposed to be organic. It's supposed to be romantic. It's supposed to be spontaneous. To which I would say, how's that working for you? If it is working for you, fantastic, then proceed. But if you're one of the couples that are struggling to find time, you're having conflict around this area, you're not in the mood for it, you just can't seem to find time for it, then what I'm telling you is put it on the calendar and schedule it. And I know that can feel cringy to some of you guys, like, beep, beep, beep. Oh, babe, my alarm went off. Let's get naked. See you upstairs in 5 minutes. I know it can feel weird when you think about it in that context, but today I'm going to give you 3 reasons that I believe you should really consider scheduling sex if it is not something that is just happening naturally and organically in the relationship to the point where you're both satisfied. So I want you to scoot a little closer so you hear me on this one. Scheduled sex is better than no sex. Yeah, scheduled sex is better than no sex. So let me give you 3 reasons I believe you should consider scheduling sex in your relationship. Number 1, scheduling sex, it actually prioritizes sex in the relationship. Listen, whatever you value is driven by your calendar and your checkbook. If you don't know what you value, I promise you, look at your calendar and look at your checking account and see where your money and time is going. Those are the things that you value. And when you prioritize and schedule sex, it actually speaks to the value of that thing in your life. Now, a lot of people are just not having sex because there's differences in desire, differences in schedules. I mean, you think about all the things that fight against sex: stress, children, calendar, work, differing desires, differing preferences. There's so many things that can creep in and fight against that when you schedule it, it says this is a priority for our relationship, and so we're going to make time for it. I believe that if anything is important to the context of your relationship and it's not happening, you need to schedule it. That may be sex, that may be communication, that may be date nights, whatever it is. If it's not happening, but you believe it's important to the relationship, it needs to be put on the schedule. And listen, scheduling something doesn't make it mechanical or unenjoyable. We bought into this myth that it's like, well, you know, if it's a good relationship, then we should just both experience the desire at the same time. That's not likely. because we live in the real world. This whole idea of they get me, they know me. If I have to tell them what I want, it's not as meaningful as if they just know. All that's crap. That's actually called lazy love. If somebody just naturally does something because it's what they desire, that's a lazier love than somebody who says, I have zero desire, or I don't value the way that you like to be loved, but I'm choosing to love you in the way that you've expressed you want to receive love from me. That's a greater act and commitment of love than it just comes natural for me. So when it comes to the sexual relationship, just because you plan it does not make it less meaningful, does not make it less enjoyable. Listen, scheduling something actually can increase the anticipation for it, right? Your vacation doesn't suck because you had to plan it in advance. No, some of you are like, the only way I can get through the next 3 weeks of work is because I know in week 4 I got a vacation coming. I'm looking forward to it. The vacation doesn't suck because you planned it and scheduled it. Listen, having dinner at your favorite restaurant, the dinner does not taste terrible because you had to make a reservation. Like somehow it's better if you just spontaneously wake up at 5 o'clock on a Friday from a nap and go, you know what would be great right now? My favorite steak place. And then you go. You're telling me that steak somehow tastes better than if you go, I've got a reservation at 6:30 on Friday. I can almost taste the steak and mashed potatoes and the vegetable. I can taste it already. Listen, so scheduling does not make it less meaningful, does not make it unenjoyable, but can actually increase the anticipation of it. But when you schedule it, you say it's a priority for our relationship, and I'm prioritizing a very vital and important part of our relationship. That's one thing scheduling does. Number 2, scheduling it actually eliminates sexual rejection. Sexual rejection in marriage is one of those areas where a lot of us do not try to initiate the sexual relationship because we do not like the feelings of rejection that come with it when our spouse says they're actually not in the mood that night. When you schedule it, you actually eliminate the possibility of sexual rejection because you both know what you're going to do that night. There's already a plan for what's happening, and it eliminates, which is one of the greatest barriers for sexual intimacy in a relationship, is the fear that one or both have that they'll be rejected when they try to initiate. So listen, here is a dance that is currently going on in many bedrooms across the world every single night. One of the spouses has climbed into bed because they're exhausted and tired and they want to go to sleep. The other spouse is coming to bed, and the one who's in bed is thinking to themselves, I have zero desire for sex tonight. So usually they're trying to pretend like they're asleep, hoping their spouse won't try to initiate. But what they're doing is they're laying on their side of the bed in their mind, secretly hoping, I hope they don't initiate. I hope they don't initiate. Please don't let them initiate. Don't have them initiate. Don't have them initiate. And the other spouse may be climbing into bed going, it's been a little while since we've had sex. I'd love to initiate sex, but they look like they're asleep. And last time they got mad at me when I woke them up. And I don't like the feeling of rejection. So if I try to reach over and initiate and they tell me no, that's going to feel worse. Then I'm going to be frustrated and in my feelings. And so they're sitting there having a mental battle. Their spouse is laying right next to them having a mental battle. And God forbid the spouse not interested in sex accidentally moves their foot over and bumps into their spouse who goes, wait a minute, they touched me. Was that an act of initiation? Was that their sign saying they're open to it if I want to initiate? And we have more song and dance going. And oftentimes there's either initiation and the rejection, which leads to frustration for the next few days in a relationship and maybe a fear of initiating later. Or the person never initiates but just goes to bed frustrated because they don't feel like they have the opportunity in the relationship to communicate about their sexual needs and prioritize the sexual relationship. This dance is happening to many couples, so if it's you, you are not alone. Here's what scheduled sex does. Let's say you've scheduled sex for twice a week. Tuesday and Friday night are your sex nights. Guess what? It's a Thursday night. The spouse is in bed. Dude, they don't have to think about nothing. I'm going to sleep. I know they're not trying to initiate because tomorrow's a sex night. I can sleep like a baby, and the spouse who's getting into bed that actually may be interested in sex is Thursday night, and they're like, you know what? This is not our night. I'm not going to initiate. But the good news is tomorrow night's our scheduled night, so I'll just wait till tomorrow night, and both go to bed and sleep like babies with no frustration, no bitterness, nothing coming between them. And watch this. If for some reason one of the spouses on a scheduled day of sex is not feeling good, maybe they're feeling super exhausted from their day, maybe they just don't feel clean because they've been hot and sweaty all day and just don't feel like engaging in sex, what they can do is turn to their spouse and go, hey babe, I know that tonight is one of our sex nights, but I'm just feeling terrible. I'm not really engaged. My mind's not right, or I don't feel clean. Is it cool if we just go tomorrow night instead of tonight? This preemptive rejection, I promise you, feels way better than rejection in the moment of initiation. And so they can communicate about it, come to agreement for the next night. And now we've avoided the tension, the conflict, that, well, I know this is the night. And so if I don't, respond when they initiate, they're going to be mad because we planned it, and you go through this whole song and dance again. So scheduling it can eliminate this thing called sexual rejection in a relationship and really help you guys in your relationship sexually. And the third thing is that scheduled sex often produces spontaneous sex. Yeah, for a lot of couples, because you've stopped having sex, it's real hard to just naturally kickstart that area of your relationship again. So scheduled sex can help you say, let's prioritize it. We realize it may be a little awkward as we begin to try to initiate and make this normal again because it's become more normal not to have sex. So let's start scheduling it. But as you schedule it, it becomes more common and more normal. Now, again, if you're in a relationship where sex is happening organically, spontaneously, then don't worry about this. Just ride the momentum. No pun intended. But if it's not you, then scheduling it will actually help it become normal. And at the end of the day, what you've noticed if you haven't been having sex is that no sex begets more no sex. Like the longer we go without having sex, the easier it is to keep going longer and longer and longer without having sex, because of the effort and momentum and awkwardness it takes to re-engage in this area. The opposite is also true, that having sex will beget more sex. It's not uncommon for couples who haven't been having sex that decide to start scheduling sex to prioritize it, that their scheduled sex, because it has become normal, and listen, because when you have sex, the brain releases nice chemicals like oxytocin and dopamine that actually are reward centers of the brain, which cause you to want more of the thing that's rewarding it. It's not uncommon for couples who schedule sex to then begin having more spontaneous sex to the point where they get into a rhythm in their relationship where one or both is initiating frequently enough that they're both satisfied that they no longer have to schedule sex. So oftentimes, scheduled sex will then lead to what you really want in your relationship based on all the romance and it needs to be spontaneous and all those comments we get. Based on what you say you want, scheduled sex can actually lead to the spontaneous, the unplanned, the organic sex that you think is the key for a relationship. So don't avoid scheduling sex under the myth of, well, we just need it to happen naturally, but realize when you schedule, oftentimes it will begin to happen a little more organically. And let me give you a fourth thing, even though I didn't plan for this one. Scheduled sex actually protects your marriage. Listen, we know there's sexual temptation out there. And when you have a relationship in your marriage where your spouse is your only outlet for your sexual release and satisfaction, that is a protection and that is healthy for your relationship. So scheduling sex can actually help you fight off temptation where you may be tempted to, maybe it's look at pornography or satisfy yourself through masturbation or something else. If you know you've got a few days in a week where you're scheduling sex, that you can wait for those moments and reserve all of your sexual satisfaction and interest just for your spouse, it actually will protect your marriage as well. So there's just 3/4 reasons I believe you should consider scheduling sex in your relationship. If you already do this, I'd love to hear how you got started and what that looks like for you. If you never have, I want to hear your thoughts on it in the comment section below. As I said before, if you need a free guide to intimacy, you can check that out in the link below. And until next time, I'll see you right back here on Relationshots.